Now, before we make our little car trip up to where OMO the Hobo once lived in Linwood, California, we need to provide a little bit of background. Now, OMO the Hobo was apparently born in Fayette, Michigan, and he traveled the United States singing his quirky and unusual and funny comedy songs, and he made a lot of money doing that. And he traveled around and played parties. He put out very many albums and an extremely very many lot of 45 singles. And so we're going to be driving up to a small corner in Linwood, California. Now, other celebrities besides OMO the Hobo lived or were born in Linwood, California. Actor Kevin Costner, songwriter and performer Weird Al Yankovic, tennis player and celebrity Venus Williams. This is Big Van Vader, a famous wrestler. He came from Linwood. Surprisingly, Vladimir Putin was born in Linwood on the same day as singer Boy George. And also, New York Yankees player Whitey Ford lived together with celebrity Paris Hilton in Linwood. So this is a little background about OMO the Hobo before we pop into the car and drive up to where OMO the Hobo once lived. So I am in the heavenly automobile right now. It's not a mid-sized car, it's more like a small car, and we're ready to go to Linwood, California to visit the place where OMO the Hobo used to live very briefly. And we're driving in from Riverside, so it's going to take a couple of hours to get there. We also have to stop in a city called Bellflower. My friend lives there. He's constructing a time machine. It's the same model that I made, that I put together last year, and he really wanted to put a time machine together. So I'm bringing this auxiliary battery for him. It's really helpful when you have a time machine to have backup batteries. And I'm also bringing this time machine manual. He needs to look up a couple of things. And so we're going to drop those off in Bellflower and then head on over to where OMO the Hobo used to live. And we're off. I had a little bit of extra time, so I made a small detour through Canada and made a pit stop in Toronto, right above Buffalo, New York. And I decided to stop at another historical place. This is the freeway where Neil Young used to travel when he first met Crazy Horse. And we're still in Canada, and this is the neighborhood where Joni Mitchell grew up. We are now driving through Downey, California, which is really the home of 1960s surf music. The Shantae's Pipeline was recorded in Downey. Also, the Carpenters hung out a lot and were from Downey also. Unfortunately, we had to drive all the way back to Toronto, Canada, to a gas station where I accidentally left my car keys in the men's room. But now we are headed back to see where OMO the Hobo once lived briefly. I found the car keys, and now we've headed out of Canada, and we're stopping in San Diego here at the old Shell station where singer Kelly Clarkson once worked. So here we are, lurking nearby the former location of Wenzel'S Music Town. There was a little recording area in the back of Wenzel'S where big hits like the Shantae's Pipeline were recorded. They pumped out a few albums worth of surf music. Later on, there were two compilations of surf CDs, surf compilations called Surf Legends. And all those crazy early surf songs are on those two CDs. And a lot of people think that surf music was invented in Huntington Beach, California, but it was really, I think, invented here in Downey, California at Wenzel'S. Here's the old Wenzel'S Music Town once again. And I think the record store, Wenzel'S, was right here. You entered here, and the store was divided into two sections. There was kind of a normal, new, popular section where new, popular records were sold. And then there, on the left, was a more rare section where rare records were kept, and they kept like a little velvet rope between the two sections. And I never went to the rare section. It was a little bit scary, but I bought a couple of albums in here once. Let's continue on our trip to see where OMO the Hobo once lived. We've left Downey, and now we're in Paramount, California. Paramount is known for only one really big thing, and that's this building here. This is where The Doors, Jim Morrison, wrote Light My Fire. We've now left Paramount, California, and we're in Southgate, California, which is the city right near Paramount, California, and we're stopped at a light. Fortunately, we're right near the location where Woodstock and the Monterey Pop Festivals were held, right here where this 7-Eleven now stands. We've now arrived in Linwood, California, and on the way I noticed that we were passing the childhood home of Kevin Costner, the actor Kevin Costner, and the trees have overgrown his childhood home, but that's where it was located. And this is the laundromat where baseball player Whitey Ford and celebrity Paris Hilton used to do their laundry back in the 1990s. When tennis player Venus Williams was in Linwood, she was born in Linwood, she used to shop at Walgreens. This is the exact Walgreens that she shopped in. So we've got our car keys and our time machine equipment and the manual, and we're very, very close by the location where OMO the Hobo, who recorded quite a few albums and 45 singles, lived. So with all that driving back and forth to Canada and San Diego and losing my car keys, I totally forgot to drop off the auxiliary battery and the time machine manual to my friend in Bellflower, but I'll have to do that another day. And this is the general area where OMO would have wandered and played his songs for street people and people walking and normal people and regular people. Now, he lived at 3438, and we're parked over here near 3320 and 3318. Typical California apartments across the street and a place called Harbor Freight Tools. I think his residence was right here, down here, so let's look. We're still looking for OMO the Hobo's former residence. I'm really bad with directions. So we're getting very close. I'm not even sure if this trip was worth it, but I'm gonna find this place if it takes all year. It's over here somewhere where he lived. This is 3439 Century Boulevard in Linwood, and this is about as close as I can get to 3438. Now, OMO may have lived over here, maybe that, I think he lived over here somewhere, maybe in this complex here. Whenever I put my finger here, the camera goes out of focus. But I think OMO lived here somewhere. I'm gonna focus, but I think he may have lived on this very corner where the auto repair service is, and we can just imagine him coming back from a concert, walking here, going into his residence here, and perhaps he walked down here, had a cigarette, came back, and maybe walked over here, threw away something in this dumpster, and then went to the Four Amigos liquor store. But let's assume, and let's be definite, that this is most likely probably where OMO the Hobo lived, right here on Century Boulevard. Many years ago, he was probably inside one of these little buildings here, making up songs and rehearsing for shows, and enjoying his time alone, and enjoying the times when he would play concerts outside of this area where he lived. I think OMO was here. I think he actually walked these streets around this corner. So this was actually a successful visit, and this is where OMO the Hobo once lived, briefly. And Here's an album cover, very small album cover photocopy of OMO the Hobo returning to his once residence here in Linwood, California. You could imagine OMO walking casually down the street and going into his house or apartment. So that's this episode of Heavenly Album Covers.